cool.
Yeah.
What's neat about this podcast that we were talking about a little bit before. So that this is our 12th one. You're really the first guest that I had on that I didn't really know beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like everyone that else has come on, like we've had friendship with beforehand, and kind of how we got to this was we had a friend of ours, Turner Ward, on the podcast, and I had him react to a video that was teaching HLP, and again we talked about this too. I thought he was fairly gracious. I knew where he stood. I thought he was fairly gracious with his response, but it didn't matter to anyone else. Everyone else didn't think it was gracious, so there was a lot of back and forth going on, and so I just thought it was only fair to have someone on that was on the other side of the spectrum of the teaching philosophy, and have them an opportunity to share their side, because Turner had an opportunity to share his. And, one of the things that I was looking for, again, to give you your flowers with it, was trying to find someone that I thought I could have a good faith conversation with, and not get defensive or whatever, you know what I mean? And I was struggling. I came across stuff and I thought you were the perfect fit. So if we could kind of get into that a little bit, could you start with maybe giving me the background or the origins of HLP?
Yeah.
Before you kind of get into the details of HLP, I guess.
So I don't know if I can discuss heavily the backgrounds of it. I think that's more Richard. But I can tell you about my experience.
Okay, that's fine.
And so I was actually training at a facility that everybody knows, Driveline Baseball, back in the day when I was chasing my pro career. And I think I was just really annoying at that time. Remember, I was still deep in the weeds, dude. Like I'm researching 24/7, just trying to find the next hack. And, I was also the guy that would change my stance like 3 times in a game. And I would just, I was obsessed. And so I think at one point I kind of annoyed, the director of hitting at that time. I'm not going to say any names, and we were talking like we did a lot, like after our sessions. And he was like, you know what? Have you ever seen this guy, Richard? And I was like, no. Who's that? Teacher man, go look him up. So he showed me his Instagram, and I went, or maybe his Twitter or something like that. And so then I just dove deep on it, and I started looking at it. My first reaction to it was like, this is stupid. These drills are ridiculous. But then I started thinking deeper about it, and I was like, well, the scientific theory basically says that you have to test anything and everything, develop a hypothesis, keep what actually works and rule out what doesn't. And that's like what real scientific theory actually takes. And so if I'm in this person that's obsessed about this, and those are my values and how I go about this process, then I should probably do that. But I was like, man, I can't get past how stupid this stuff looks. So, and it's just perspective, right? It's how I grew up. It's how I was raised. It's my worldview that I had. And I know that that's how everybody sees this, So when Ward was on here and he was talking about it, that's his perspective. That's based off his experiences. And so there's no shame against that. That's, I'm sure he's gotten results with other hitters doing things his way. And so it's like, when you have that kind of bias towards like your perspective or your worldview on what the swing actually is, it's really hard to change it, right? Unless you're open to actual scientific theory, and then it becomes a little bit easier to like accept new information and be willing to change. So what I did is I related it to my throwing. Like when I developed my throwing, I used a lot of the drills that Driveline created back in the day, and I used their system for organization and structure with it. And I remember the constraint drills being pretty stupid. I thought they were weird, And I remember this thing, backwards chaining and chucking, which is basically like where you start at the end of the throw and then you kind of work your way back. And, I started applying the skill acquisition stuff to my throw, and I took off with my throwing velo. Like I started throwing harder than I ever have. And, keep in mind, I was also like managing my weight training volume really well and stuff like that. And so that played a significant role. But I related it to that. And I was like, okay, if that worked and I was willing to do that, why wouldn't I be willing to do this? So I just started trying it. I started trying it on my own, and then I started messaging Richard back and forth. And this was before like he really blew up and took off with Judge in like 17, so he had time, And so I just kind of like pieced it together. Now I wasn't very good at it at all. Like I started grasping concepts of it. This was really foreign to me, turning the barrel rearward, getting on plane sooner. Very, very weird for me, but I was already kind of in this, the last year, kind of going the Josh Donaldson approach, which was like heavy shoulders and elbows and kind of remove the hands out of the equation and be mostly arms. But that didn't really work out for me either. I was really inconsistent. I was more inconsistent with that. And I always hit the ball hard, so it wasn't like I needed more bat speed and exit velo. It was really like the efficiency of the technique. And also like performance anxiety was massive. So I could have been, by the way, I could have had like the best swing in the world. I still think I would have been the average 250 hitter, just because like that was prevalent in my game at this time in my life. Right.
Yeah, right.
So anyways, I started doing that, and I kind of got a grasp of the rear leg my last year in indie ball. And I ended up like going into the All-Star break, and it was like the best season I've ever had, and I was the MVP of the All-Star game. I was like one of the best hitters on the team, and then I got traded right after the All-Star break. I went in to, this is like a side story, but I went into the office, and my owner of the team was drunk, and he was like, hey, I'm going to trade you for a couple players. And I was like, bro, like I'm the best hitter on the team. I love my team. Like this is the first time I've ever done good in my life. Like why? So I go over to this new team, and the coach hates my swing, and he wants me to change everything. And, it was a miserable existence. For the next few months, I fell off. Like, great. I lost like 100 points on my batting average. It was terrible. I suffered with a lot of that performance anxiety. It came right back, when I started putting pressure on myself. So, anyways, what I did when I came home, though, is I started testing a lot of the HLP stuff with all these clients that I had that I was training for free. And over time, I started to figure it out a lot more. Like, I started getting a lot better at teaching it, because I think in order to figure it out, too, you have to be willing to swing a bat. And so because I was willing to go to the facility 2 hours early, even though I had a 12-hour day in front of me, and try to hit and try to figure it out, then I could relay that information over to my clients and try to get them to hit and try to get them to figure it out. And at first we weren't very good, just like with anything. But over time it started getting progressively better, and I started seeing these athletes who were like no names, go D1, and these athletes who really didn't have like a future in the game, like start actually like creating a future for themselves. Regardless if they went D1 or not, these are guys who like maybe had the physical ability to play, but they couldn't actually like play in college. And then all of a sudden it started picking up for them. And I was like, man, I really feel like this is going to be the way, And so just following like the scientific theory, being willing to test, trial and error for a long period of time with a lot of athletes, I realized like right now, and I still have this opinion today, otherwise we wouldn't teach it, but I believe that it's the best technique in the world for hitting. And that's not like a biased opinion either. Like we've done this with thousands of athletes at this point. So, back then, before I even said like, hey, we do HLP, I was just testing. I tested everything, and so it wasn't until I really figured out that it really started to work. I loved the idea of it. I was able to develop a complete system around it for like youth, high school, collegiate, professional athletes. And, we developed program designs around it, the whole nine. And once I did that, I was like, man, this is definitely the way. But with that being said, if anybody ever created something better, or if we end up improving it or finding some new information out there because we consistently apply the scientific theory to everything that we're doing, if that existed, we would do that. So it's not like I'm married to HLP and I'm just going to die with it. It's more like this is amazing for where we're at, but we're always trying to consistently improve upon it, if that makes sense.
No, that's cool. That's a cool perspective. If you enjoyed that clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the full podcast, click right here. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you find this content valuable.